$200 million mill investment we've got here continues once we get past this crisis we're in now to have wood coming in the door. Again, I think if you're fortunate enough as a landowner to already have a relationship with a consulting forester, you're one step ahead. For any of us that have not established those relationships, we're going to be playing a little bit of catch up to try to get our place in line, if you will, because again, if you think about it, the wood supply system in this part of the state of Georgia, again, we talked about 75 to 100 miles trucking, has generally found a point of equilibrium. There's so much wood coming out of the forest, there's so much logging capacity to harvest it, there's so much trucking capacity to move it, and there's so much mill capacity to process it, and then the buyers have got to be there. The system really is just not set up for a shock of this magnitude that we have suffered here as far as the supply of wood that is now available to the market. And it is a shock. I think that the system really just in any circumstance just can't absorb that. Yes, gentleman in the back first, and then y'all next to each other.
What is the usual reduction in the sales price in a salvage situation like this?
The question is, what is the general reduction of sales price in wood salvage like this? And I'm going to say that does not violate our caveat that we're not going to talk prices. Dr. Dickens, I think you have been through it before. Will you address that question specifically?
The best I heard was 50 cents on the dollar, and that was for the Bronson Forest. It's a Norfolk and Southern Railroad, 15,000 acre plantation that had 80 to 100 plus year old loblolly and longleaf. And again, the way the trees were broken at about 12 to 18 feet, the first and second log were gone, but there was enough good wood above that in very big trees that they got 50 cents on the dollar. That was very atypical. The standard was more like 10 to 25 cents on the dollar, okay? And again, you gotta think about it. If those first two logs are no longer saw timber, but they're pulpwood, the pulpwood price has already gone down. And that wood that was worth X number of dollars is now worth about 1/3 to 1/6 of that. So there's your dilemma, because your first two logs are the most valuable logs on a stem of wood, on a tree. So, yeah, I think there was one other question.
I'm just going to say what was the takeaway from the meeting yesterday, that anyone been able to compel the railroads to buy into this? I know they certainly have the capacity, but I know from local manufacturers, the railways kind of have a monopoly. We're stuck in between two very big ports, one in Savannah and one in Panama City, and it seems to be made very convenient for us to ship anything out of Decatur, Seminole County by rail, just simply because the railroad companies, it's just not advantageous for them.
The only thing I can say about that is I talked to the railroad, one railroad, major railroad, and they were more than willing to provide cars and work with industry to set up a rail yard or utilize an existing rail yard to move timber. But they charge to do that. So they're not going to do it for free, but they will do it. The next challenge, therefore, is to locate another wood processing facility that has the capacity and wants some southern yellow pine or some of our hardwood, and we'll pay for it. And I don't know where that is.
Would GFC be interested in at least providing some sort of subsidy to the CSX railroad company to overcome that in return to get the wood out of here? So it doesn't affect directly to the landowner's property.
I'll let the director respond to that because I know what my answer would be.
Again, the short answer is no. That is not what the state constitution directs us to do. The longer answer is the longer answer is we work for the people of the state of Georgia. If the governor and the legislature give us direction to do whatever, even though it may be out of our normal box, we will do the business of the people of the state of Georgia. Anything else before we go to our friends from FSA?
Nope, go to them.
Good afternoon, everybody. The one thing that if you leave here today, one thing to remember from a farm service agency standpoint is go back to the Thursday after the storm and keep a log of everything that you've done. Personal labor, free labor, anything that you pay for, keep a daily log. Because any of the farm service agency programs that you apply for, you will need these logs to back up your bills with our cost share programs and all. So go back to the Thursday after the storm, start making your logs and keep a daily log. If you hire somebody, you have an invoice. If you use your personal equipment, say you got a loader out there cleaning roads or whatever, into your property or whatever you've done, especially fencing and things like that, keep a daily log, and that way we can come back and help you recoup some of your costs that you've expended. Business is a forestry meeting. What we'll focus on right quick is the emergency forest restoration program. It is to help the landowner to come in and clean up their damaged timberland and replant. Based on your forester recommendations, we do have cleanup and natural regeneration if you have enough seed stock left for natural regeneration. But there are assistance available, already currently available. You don't have to wait on he's gone, it's almost like politics, to get involved. These programs are already there. And so you need to visit your local farm service agency office and apply. Lines are long, be patient. What you'll need to do is, if you've recently bought property, bring your deeds in. We can get the correct ownership. If you're an existing landowner and are so recognized by the Farm Service Agency, your records are available. And what will happen is you'll come in, and we'll ask you to sign a waiver so you can go ahead and start addressing your needs. And we'll get that information over to the Georgia Forestry. That's up to us to notify them that you have applied for this program, and they will be considered the technical agency in this particular field. So you'll get a phone call from them. A lot of you, you'll see Mr. Martin over here. And so if you have a consultant on hand that you already have, come up with a plan before Georgia Forestry comes, what you'd like to do. So you can have some information available for him so he can draw up your brief management plan. There's a lot of concern about the emergency forest restoration program. I'm not able to salvage anything. I really don't want to clean it up. In this program, in order to get cost share to clean up, you have to replant or natural regeneration. But there are situations where you may not want to clean it up. What we can help you on in that particular program is we can help you under another program called Emergency Conservation Program to remove debris from your farm road access. Where you're managing your timber, you have to have access into your property to manage your timber. So there is a program out there that we can help you with as far as getting your roads, access back on your roads to manage your property. That also applies to the Conservation Reserve Program. Now, Ms. asked a question about CRP. There is no help, but there is some help where we can help you around the edge of your CRP, remove trees that you use for your forestry roads and all of that. So you do need to apply at your local office there. I was asked to keep it brief. With that, I'll stop, but I do want you to understand that log is the key to the car. You have that log, then we can go back and recreate what you've incurred from a landowner standpoint.
Question, is there money available? Let's say you want to facilitate your site prep and want to plant in this year's planting season, which is going to be starting in December and then plan on through March. Is there any money available to facilitate that earlier? And I know you said next year, the next following season would be probably the norm, but what if you wanted to start this year?
The question was, what if you wanted to go ahead and clean up and start replanting this year? That is, and I'm not throwing off on Georgia Forestry, but that's going to be their recommendation. If they agree to that in your brief management plan, then they're the technical agency on the emergency forest program.
Because there'll be some people that will go ahead and clear cut their stuff and want to go ahead and get it back in trees, and there's money available to do that.
Yeah, and let me just tell you like it is as far as any government programs. Yeah, no, you are. And so you're going to come in and apply. You're going to get this letter, there's no funds available. You're going to get mad as all fire. You're going to call the local office. You're going to bless them out. Well, that's part of the process. The next letter you're gonna get, well, the county committee is willing to approve when funds do become available. Then you're gonna get mad as fire. You won't be as mad, but you'll still call up there and raise sand.
So take a chance, is what you're saying, go ahead and plan, and hope you're gonna get some money later. Is that what you're?
Go ahead and do what you need to do to get your land back in production, and your process will come back. Normally, our programs are funded 5 to 6 months after we ask to implement. All the counties in Southwest Georgia are asking to implement the Emergency Conservation Program and the Emergency Forest Restoration Program. It'll be 6 months before you get a letter. That's a good thing about that, on that, is that your approval starts once we get the funds and it's approved. It gives you longer to accomplish your practices. Instead of a 1 year, 2 year period, you have a longer time to complete them. If we, say it rains or whatever and delays it, we have longer time to complete it.
Just like he said a while ago, there's some availability of seedlings this year. It's gonna be tough.
It's a good statement concerning seedlings. Yes, sir.
So I can go ahead and start cleaning up roads before I apply for it? Or not?
The question was, could he go ahead and start cleaning up his entrance to his forestry land and all of that before he applies? It takes you about 10 minutes to apply at your local office. Stop by your local Farm Service Agency office. There's a form that we're going to get you to sign that allows you to go ahead and start. And what we have to do is make a site visit. And we have crews on the ground now going out to individual sites looking at it for environmental concerns.
Well, I was gonna start possibly next week. You can't get a crew out that fast.
I'm not guaranteeing you will. I'm not guaranteeing you we'll be there, but we'll do the best we can to get out there. The waiver allows you to go ahead and start, but we still have to inspect the site.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
If our forester has already checked the plantations of timber, and we know we have to have a road, and he can submit that, do we have to have someone come out, or will the forester word be enough?
Under the law, we have to visit every site, whether it's cropland, timberland, whatever, we have to make that visit for environmental concerns. Yes.
Is that concerning that 850, Form 850 or whatever that is?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you guys also, are y'all trying to put a waiver or whatever where you don't have to do that long form when you have this kind of capacity?
Yes, ma'am. Her question is concerning the FSA Form 850, which is an environmental consultation with Fish and Wildlife, the Historical Society, and the Indian tribes for historical purposes. We're looking at trying to get a blanket waiver or blanket consultation where we can proceed without having to send each individual piece of property to these agencies for consulting. Yes, ma'am.
Do you foresee, like, I was told that I'd have to replant within 2 years if I stayed in the contract, that I could cancel my CRP contract without penalty because of this, but if I wanted to stay in, I had 2 years to replant. So with the deficiency of trees or lack of trees, do you foresee that they might grant a waiver if we have intentions?
I think there's a lot of issues concerning the Conservation Reserve Program, as you're talking about, as far as assistance under a natural disaster. These have been brought, as you well know, the Congressman made the comment that they're going to address, hopefully having some issues or some programs available to help with the Conservation Reserve Program contracts. Currently, if you come in, and what I would recommend you do is, and we'll send an email over to the Georgia Forestry person for the county, if you come in concerning your acreage, and ask them to look and see if you have enough trees to stay in the program. You may or may not. You may have enough trees that meet the minimum requirement to stay in, and you can file a request with your local committee to go in and do a commercial harvest of your damaged trees. And if you got enough trees left, then you're in the program and you don't have to replant or anything on that nature.
But cross that other bridge if I have to later.
We'll swim the creek then.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And I'm asking this for some other folks here in the room that's in the boat that I'm in. Some of us run cows in, planted pines, plantation cut pines. Y'all will help on cleaning up the pasture with the pine trees, is that correct?
That is, you're referring to a practice of silver pasture, combination of timber and grass. Yes, sir, it's considered, if it's considered cropland, we will definitely come out and assist you in tree removal and debris removal. Now, I'm not coming out there with a chainsaw when I say assist. You file the application and we'll see you.
That video just got cut off, it didn't get the chainsaw.
I hear you. Any other questions that you may have?
How long should we continue to keep that log in?
Until, question was, how long should we continue to maintain the log? When you have completed your project, when you have completed your restoration project, it may be as simple as a matter of a couple of months, or it may be a matter of 6 months to a year. When you complete your project and you have finalized all your components, that's when you'll notify us. You'll say, I'm done. It's called a performance report, and that's when we're going to ask you for your bills.
Is there a limit on how much money we get out of this?
The question is there a limitation concerning the emergency forest restoration program? Yes, there is. It's $500,000. The emergency conservation program right now is $200,000. There's been a lot of meetings concerning the overwhelming disaster that everybody's gone through, and maybe removing those, but that is in discussion. That is not, today there is a limitation. I would encourage you, I've looked around, I see a lot of you that's been into the local offices. I encourage you, if you have not, do not bombard the office tomorrow. Call for an appointment and visit your local office. Have an idea of what you're going to do when you walk in, how many feet of fence if you have fencing issues, number of trees down in your cropland or pasture, and come in and make an application. You never know what that application is going to lead to. It may lead to another program that may be enacted down the road.
Does fencing only, like if you got damaged fences, you need to have had livestock
Yes,
to
ma'am.
apply, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Ornamental fencing or fencing to keep your neighbors out, we don't call shell
I didn't
roads,
think
it's
that.
for livestock. Yes, sir.
Is there any stipulation if you take this cost share program, down the road, if you want to sell your property?
Yes, sir, there is. Some of these practices require a lifespan. They have what we call a lifespan as far as maintenance. So if you decide to sell your property, that practice maintenance lifespan goes with the sale, goes with the property. So the new owner would have to come in and.
What is that lifespan?
A lot of these are 10-year practices. Most of them, your fencing and all is 10 years. Now, your debris cleanup as far as tree removal, those are 1-year lifespans. I mean, it's just you remove the tree and go on. So there's no continuing lifespan on those practices.
Anybody else?
Thank y'all.
Thank you very much. We're getting close to wrapping up, and we did have some folks that could not get in the room literally when we cranked up at 2, and they're back. We're going to do another version of this at 4 o'clock. But before we wrap up, State Senator Dean Burke was with us earlier and had to slip out and is back. And I can just tell you, having enjoyed a working relationship with Senator Burke for the last several years, this area is well represented. And I asked Senator Burke, we've got actually a couple of friends from the state Senate. I asked Senator Burke if he would say a few words to you. Senator?
Unlike most politicians, I'm not going to stay up here very long because these are the experts, and I appreciate one of the issues that we deal with all the time is state agencies not really knowing where Southwest Georgia is, and I think you can see from this response today that they are heeding the call. I've had calls from my colleagues that serve in North Georgia and the metro area wanting to know what they can do to help, and I think this effort is just the very, very beginning of that. I'm certainly not a timber expert, but I certainly realize the importance of that industry to our community and your livelihood, and obviously I think my colleagues will take this very seriously and do all we can. I want to thank the federal partners that are have been down here. We've had more cabinet level people in Southwest Georgia, I think, in the past month than we've had in my 60 plus year lifetime. And again, I think that speaks volumes for how serious the state and the country are taking what's going on here. I do want to introduce my colleague, Butch Miller, who's the President Pro Tem of the Senate. He and I both serve on Appropriations Committee, which will be the committee working on this emergency appropriations that we're going to be talking about. I certainly don't have any details yet to share on what that's going to look like, but again, know that we're taking it seriously. Butch came down here just to check on me, I think, and he had no idea he was going to be standing in front of a group of 100 people. But I'm going to put him on the spot.
Oh, boy. Never met a politician who didn't like a microphone, right? You know, I try to take myself very lightly, but I take my responsibility very seriously. And our state government has a responsibility to the people of Southwest Georgia. And from day one, when we first were hearing of the approach of the hurricane and the potential damage of the hurricane, people were concerned then. I think our state government clearly has responded and will continue to respond. And as Dean points out, I think this is just the beginning, and I know it's not, you can't take it, you know, it's not very encouraging, but we call a special session specifically to deal with the financial aspects around the hurricane damage. And we'll go into session, I think it's the 13th of November, and we'll go in and we'll get out in 5 days as quickly as possible. And that's specifically to deal with these damages. I know Governor Nathan Deal, I know him as Dean knows him, and as Chuck knows him, and others. I'm sure many of you in here know him, and you know him to be a caring, compassionate, responsive individual, and his office is the same way. His chief of staff, his immediate executive staff, and they are all concerned and all wanting to do everything we can do. And when I talked to Dean today, I said, I didn't call you for a few days, or I called him actually and talked to him, texted him. I said, I didn't come down here because I don't want to be in the way. I mean, the last thing you need is somebody in the way when you're trying to clean up, trying to remove debris and get your life back together. And I will continue to pray for this community and others. And we need to continue to rebuild. And you know, in Georgia, I truly believe in Georgia, our brightest days are still ahead of us. Our best days are still ahead of us. And I've had calamity and tragedy in my life, and we all have, whether it's loved ones, family issues we're dealing with, financial issues we're dealing with, and you know, things will improve. Things will improve, and this day too shall pass. And the Lord put us here together as a community. And if He didn't intend for us to help one another, He'd have spread us out all over the world. That's why we're in community, to encourage one another, lift one another up, and to help one another. And I wasn't expecting anybody to be here but me and Dean. So be careful what you ask for, huh? Thank you very, very much. Who we got? Chuck?
For those of you that don't know, Senator Miller, President Pro Tem of the Senate, hails from Gainesville, Georgia, so he made a trek to be down here. Dean, we're glad he's down here providing you wise counsel, which he's good at doing. But again, y'all are well represented, folks. When we started this out, we said this was going to be a frank discussion, and it has certainly proven to be that. We did not come down here with any illusions of holding a pep rally and telling you that you know, everything's going to be all right, because you face some severe challenges. I hope what we have provided today has been, from an informational standpoint, a benefit to you. I hope we have conveyed that certainly at the state and with our federal partners, with Congressman Bishop's interest in what's going on here, that the state and the federal government are going to do everything that they can. I truly do believe that. And I'm not sure what everything that they can will end up being, but that we're going to do everything we can. Usually my experience has been in meetings like this, a lot of the value comes after we adjourn and hit the gavel. Unfortunately, we've got a group of people that could not get in the room at 2 o'clock, and they came back for 4 o'clock session. So we are going to ask y'all, if you'd like to stay, and if you hadn't had enough, you can stay and hear it again. But we're going to break up and ask y'all to make room for our guests in the back. And again, thank you all for being here today.